a little, well, must have been the fourth repeat. She's not old enough to... That was during the war.
World War One.
Yes, war. But it does mean a lot, and that people from all over Australia, and they don't all know the Phantom, but that music reaches so many and different ages. So I was very, very touched, and always you should spend time with, in replying to the letters. We used to get about 150, 160 letters a day when I was doing Phantom in America and London, and we would reply to every single letter without fail.
Can I ask you, Jenny, you started at 8, so for almost 3 years, as Michael said, but what was the deal? How come you're going 3 times?
Because when I was little, Mum promised me if he ever came to Australia, I could see him 3 or 4 times. 3 or 4. Now, Mum, I guess you figured he wasn't going to come, did you?
No, I didn't think he would. Glad he did.
So you've been once and you're going tonight?
Yes.
And
on Saturday.
And the matinee on Saturday.
And
all right.
hoping to win the lottery on Sunday so they can pay for the tickets.
Absolutely marvellous. Now, who was your idol? When you were Jenny's age, who was your idol?
Well, the very first one was Danny Kaye. When I was a child, a very small child, I saw him at the London Palladium, and he entertained right across the age groups, and that was the kind of entertainer that obviously got through to my heart and soul. And then when I got a little older, Gene Kelly became my hero. Again, when you look at it, he goes through age groups so that the young and the old appreciate what he does, and he's a charming man. And there's a story, I met him. I was asked to go and meet him in San Francisco with the chance of doing the musical Hello, Dolly with Barbara Streisand and Walter Matthau.
Which you did.
Which Gene Kelly was going to direct. And they said, while you're in San Francisco, you're going to meet Gene Kelly. So I arrived. It was very early in the morning, and I'd flown for 13 hours from London. And there was a line at the desk, and I went up, and they said, "Oh, you have a message, Mr. Crawford. Gene Kelly called." And I said, I'm sorry." They said, "Gene Kelly called." So I said, "Could you say that again?" So they read it again, and then I looked to see on the line if they'd heard it or not. And I said, "Gene Kelly called for me, that is for me." And then I ran up to my room. I said, "Just hang on to it, will you?" And I called down. I said, "Do I have any messages, please?" And I kept calling down to get this message saying, "Gene Kelly called." And I've got this framed. I've got this framed still at home. And then he was going to meet me at 10 o'clock that morning, and I had 2.5 hours to kill before I saw him, met him, and so I had a bath, and I shaved and washed my hair and thought, what am I going to wear? And then there was still 2 hours to go, so I had another bath, and I shaved again, and I washed my hair again. And I mean, I could, after the 3rd bath, I was envisaging this bald man with no skin left on his face, opening the door to Gene Kelly. Anyway, I got to start changing clothes and see what I'd look best in, whether I'd wear a collar and tie or things. And I was in the most absurd outfit. I ended up in a pair of striped pants and a check shirt and an odd jacket. And then the door went. So at the end of the 2.5 hours, I opened the door, and there is Gene Kelly standing there. And I said, "Oh, wow." And he said... And he shot past me, just took one very worried look at me, and then shot past me into the sitting room of this vast suite they'd put me in. And he said, "Now," he said, "I want to know, can you sing?" I said, "Well, I said I've got jet lag at the moment." He said, "Can you dance?" I said, "Well, I've done a bit in the bath." And he looked at me. There was not a titter, and I thought, boy, this is going well. I'm in with a chance now. And with that, he said, "Listen," he said, "let's not talk small talk." He said, so he jumped up on the coffee table because it was a carpeted floor, and he said, "See if you can do this." And he went into a routine that looked straight out of Singing in the Rain. And he finished. He said, "Can you do that?" I said, "Well, not as well as you." I said, "You're great." I said, "I really..." He said, "Come on, get up here." So I stood up on this coffee table, went into this routine. I was going da 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 da. He said, and he looked. He said, "Well, let me tell you," he said, "what we're looking for is an attractive idiot." My wife, she thinks you're attractive, and I think you're an idiot.
Well, this very attractive idiot actually got the job. So let's get a break with a clip from Hello, Dolly with this man.
You've got a clip.
That could have killed you.
Yes, yes. Quite a few things could have killed me.
Could have killed me. Yeah. How much can you travel around these? I guess in those days it was hard enough for you to walk on the streets in Britain without being mobbed. But
It was
what about
actually,
now?
it was worse then, but now it's a lot easier. I mean, when you go around, you work with a mask, it's a lot easier. So I know I've got a place in Wapping on the river, which I mentioned earlier, and I sit, one morning I was sitting there on my balcony, I thought, this is nice. I had a dressing gown on, and I went over to the window, and there's no one for miles. You can see across the river, unless somebody's got telescopes or something. So I sat there with my breakfast on my lap, and a coffee and cooked breakfast that I'd done for myself, taken me hours. So I sit there, and all these boats come by, and you hear them, the river, really people enjoying themselves, saying, on the left, you can see where Judge Jeffreys, the hanging judge, used to drown his victims, and he let them sigh there where the tide came in and went out again, and they'd be dead when the tide came out again. And then over there where the Pilgrim Fathers left, and he said, then I'm going on down to America. And he said, he says, if you look up to the left there, you can see Mr. Michael Crawford sitting having his breakfast. And I just heard and I'm sitting there with no pants on. I've got nothing on except this dressing gown up to here. I leant my chair back slightly so that they wouldn't see me inside the window, and I went straight. My legs went up in the air. They saw from here to New Year's Eve. So I suppose even without a mask, I'm recognised as
Especially with that boatload of people.
Yes, especially with that smile on my face.
We've got to take a break and take a quick break. We'll come back to say goodbye with Michael right after this. The most flattering review. You must have paid for that, did you?
Yeah, I haven't got that much money.
It was a sensation review, but they said that in fact this man has made himself the matinee idol of the 1990s, and he certainly has. You've seen that why that is today. I stand corrected. There are standing room only seats available for Michael's show every night around Australia. So all the sitting seats have been taken, but you should go and stand. It's worth standing for. You can also catch Michael signing copies of this album next Thursday. This is his album, which has now gone platinum, at Grace Brothers City Store. So a week from today at Grace Brothers City Store in Sydney alone. It is number 2 at the moment, Michael.
It is.
At least it was until today.
Yeah.
What's number 1?
Neil Diamond. Neil Diamond.
So
Age Before Youth.
Age Before Youth.
No, he's left the country, I can say, because he's bigger than I am.
It is a wonderful album, and you'll see. You've seen today why this man is as acclaimed as he is. We thank you for your time. I know how tough it is.
It's
must
been
be to do
pleasure.
a show, and to come and give us an hour and a half of your time. We can only say thank you.
I've had a great time here, as I'm having in Australia. Thank you all for having me back here.
Mr. Michael Crawford. And we'll see you for lunch tomorrow. Bye-bye now.
And I met the Prince, and he was just the most charming man. He was lovely. He was so
But you didn't have
lovely.
your sexy gear on. You had the one that Mum had got
No,
for you.
okay, yeah. I had the little 10-year-old look like 10-year-old.
Mum, been thwarted. It could have been Princess Dawn now. Mum interfere with it. I know. Well done, Dawn. Another gold medal. OBE a couple of 3 or 4 years back, and that's the only time I really met her. And I remember about getting dressed to go and see her. You had to wear tails. It was a morning suit, as they call it. And my daughters, you were allowed 2 guests, so I took my...
Gone to Australia. So here we are.
Look at the size of it.
So normally it takes other artists months and months and months to achieve that, if they ever achieve it. But you've managed to do that in just over a week or so in Australia.
Oh, well, it's no small thanks to the Midday show, I think. After last week, the reaction was extraordinary. So thank you very, very much, everyone out there.
Congratulations.
Oh,
thank
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving right along. Next time you come back, what happens after platinum? Is there a triple platinum or something? All right. Can I ask you about that? Hello, Dolly, because when you move with people like Barbra Streisand, I mean, was it harder to do the film than to do a stage play, for example, a stage show?
It is, in a way. You have to find the emotion all of a sudden. When we're singing songs, if we're doing a production like Phantom, you begin at the beginning, you go through the center of the story, and you finish. There's the climax of the story. And in film, you pick it up anywhere. I mean, there's a beautiful love scene in there where I sing a song called "It Only Takes a Moment," which is a lovely sentiment that you actually meet someone, you look them in the eyes, and you know there's some connection between you. You know there's a wonderful feeling. And the song was called "It Only Takes a Moment for your eyes to meet, and then your heart knows in a moment you may." So it's that had to be spontaneous, and we were doing it from midnight until 6 a.m. in the morning. We shot this with Gene Kelly standing behind the camera, and you do it from every possible angle because it's a $20 million movie, and in those days that was it was the largest musical ever made. So you sing and you sing and you sing. All the tracks are done before you, so you're actually singing with a track. You can mime, but it's best to sing with the track. And I sang it and I sang it and I sang it, and in every take, it moved me, it made me cry. And at the end of a long night shooting, we did one master take, and I finished, and the tears are running down my face, and I looked over to see if Gene liked it, and there were tears just running down his face, and he came over and he just hugged me, said, "You little mother." And that man, he was a hero, a real life hero, that you meet someone and you admire someone, and when you meet them in real life, he never ever failed me. He never let me down. He never let anyone down when we were working together. He was a true Irish gent, and always had such love for his work.
Part of the reason I asked that was